I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this is not good, and I sincerely hope that this law does not actually pass in Florida, and I'll tell you why. There has to be some type of standard, and you can't selectively choose to ban things that you don't like simply because it sounds right, you think it's right, or you think it might be morally good. If you're 18 years old, you're either an adult or you're not. Now, the first and most obvious rebuttal is, what about alcohol? I don't think you should have to be 21 to purchase alcohol. There's other countries that's not the case, and it wasn't even the law in America for many, many years. But let's focus on this. Exotic dancing is a legal profession. It requires documentation, you pay taxes, and it takes place confined in the four walls of a legally recognized business. There are security protocols and other measures. There are security guards, bouncers, protection. And generally speaking, of all the theoretically bad behaviors, this is a pretty controlled one. And if you want to say that it's not controlled enough, then you could make more laws related to these clubs, for example. But to say that an 18-year-old now can't dance, well, that 18-year-old could make adult films. Those could happen in a bus, in a van, at a house, out in public, wherever, which arguably has less control and is probably a whole lot more risky than dancing in these clubs. And like most laws that have the theoretical correct intent, they typically backfire and won't necessarily stop this behavior from happening, except now it will have to happen not in a legally sanctioned or legal business place. Now, for example, dancing on a stage or perhaps in a private room with security guards is probably not as bad or as harmful as engaging in actual acts on video to be put on the internet forever. It's really important to remember that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And whatever this law purports to be protecting these young women, mostly women, from, will likely backfire and force them to then do it in illegal ways as opposed to in this controlled environment, or resort to films or online content, which likely lasts forever, is recorded and emblazoned into the web for eternity, is probably more ripe for corruptible or illegal or dangerous situations, and likely would involve actual acts as opposed to just dancing. Now, people will say, oh, this is not a conservative, whatever values, but it's important to understand that ruling by decree that something is not a thing doesn't stop that thing from happening. It just, for the most part, pushes it to the black market, to the underground, and actually makes it less safe. It certainly feels weird to defend this, but it's just the reality.